President Tinubu at NBA National Conference reassures Nigerians that hard decisions will produce a better nation.
Whatever it is that I'm doing right, remind me, I will continue to do that. Whatever it is that I'm doing wrong, tell me, I will change my code.
Chief of Army Staff promises more training and welfare as military school graduates personnel.
NDLEA continues onslaught against drug traffickers, arrests more suspects across the country.
And Good Morning Nigeria today discusses the ongoing distribution of palliatives by states.
As the government continues to articulate ways and means of addressing the challenges that have arisen from the removal of fuel subsidy, Nigerians remain anxious and highly expectant of solutions that will bring succor to them. Already, several directives have been issued, while some actions have also been taken to immediately respond to the situation.
That's right, Kirian. Now, some of the measures already taken are part of the decisions arrived at the National Economic Council meeting presided over by the Vice President, where it was disclosed that each of the 36 states of the Federation, plus the Federal Capital Territory, will get 5 billion naira to acquire palliatives for distribution to the vulnerable and the needy. Now, this is in addition to truckloads of rice and other grains promised to the states by the federal government.
Now, Kingsley, it's very important to clarify, that the 5 billion naira to states consists of a 52% grant and 48% loans, which will be paid back in 20 months. Already, the federal government is said to have disbursed 2 billion naira of the money to the states, while some states have also taken delivery of some trucks of rice and grains for distribution.
As it stands, some states have either commenced distribution of the palliatives or have set up special committees to handle the distribution, while other states have existing templates and some form of register for the poor and needy. Others are carrying out another fresh census, as it were, of the vulnerable, with a view to ensuring that the items get to the right persons.
The importance of having a valid and up-to-date register of the vulnerable in Nigeria cannot be overstated, especially at times like this when it is most needed. Specifically speaking, the need for a dynamic social register reminds us that the nation needs to know its citizens and be able to reach them with any service or palliative without challenges.
Well, this has raised concerns about the mechanisms for the distribution of the palliatives. Now, while the peculiarities of states differ, the bottom line is for the items to reach the most vulnerable in society who, as it were, in dire need of affordable food. How are the states coping in terms of access, storage, and distribution of the palliatives?
Looking at the numbers of the needy across the country, how far can the items be prioritized in order to make an impact in the lives of the beneficiaries? What are the logistic challenges associated with the exercise, and how can they be overcome? Are there safeguards put in place to ensure that the items are upfront and not mismanaged or diverted? Will political considerations be a factor?
Very pertinent questions, and there are allegations already, at least in some states, that the politicals have already hijacked the process and are using it, therefore, as a patronage gravy. Now, what is it that lies ahead after this round of distribution of palliatives, and what are the states and local governments themselves putting in place to tackle the difficulties arising from the removal of fuel subsidies, since they are also supposed to be getting more funds that were hitherto expended on fuel subsidy. This is Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, and our banter immediately before now was, of course, to introduce our subject matter for today, the distribution of palliatives in the states. I'm Kingsley Osagolo, and I welcome you to this edition of the program.
And Kirian Umayo, thank you for joining us this morning for the Monday edition of your Morning Tonic. Good morning, Nigeria. And as we make progress this morning, expect to have the usual complementary segments talking about newspaper review, of course, business news, foreign and sports. For now, let's get in touch with Dennis Adegunloye to take you on the morning news. Good morning, Dennis.
Good morning, Kieran and Kingsley. Good morning, Nigeria. Here is the morning news. President Bola Tinubu has again promised to continue to take hard decisions necessary to turn around the socio-economic situation for the good of the greater number of Nigerians. He made the pledge at the opening of the 2023 Annual General Conference of the Nigeria Bar Association in Abuja.
Men and women of the bar, whatever it is that I'm doing right, remind me, I will continue to do them. Whenever it is that I'm doing wrong, tell me, I will change my code.
The Minister of Transportation, Saidu Alkali, has paid an unscheduled visit to the railway station in Idu, inspecting facilities on the train. After an impromptu visit on Sunday afternoon, the minister promised to address shortfalls as soon as possible.
How can somebody use this train? Now that the VDC is unscheduled, I have inspected the coaches. Some of the toilet facilities are not working. I have received a complaint from the security escort that in the last 5 months, their allowance were not paid. And I am happy the managing director of the Nigeria Railway Corporation is appearing before the ministry to give me brief. And if he comes, I am now well informed. The escalator is not working. The lift is not working. It's making it very difficult for elderly and disabled people to travel by the train. One, I am going to ensure the outstanding allowance of the escort is paid on Monday. Two, I am going to liaise with the Ministry of Defense so that we still ensure give them protection from the air.
The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, has arrested a South African man, Erasmus Jean-Pierre, at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport for trying to export 2.6 kilograms of methamphetamine to the Middle East. NDLEA officers also recovered opioid pills in Gombe, Adamawa and Ogun states, along with large quantities of skunk and cannabis in various locations. Meanwhile, transnational drug cartels' attempts to transport ketamine and skunk were also foiled by NDLEA operatives in Lagos. The Nigerian Army has pledged to continue to provide an enabling environment for learning and training to military schools to ensure qualitative education and discipline. This was contained in the messages of the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Taurid Lagbaja, at the passing out parade of the Nigerian Military School, Zaria.
Our educational and medical facilities are being upgraded for quality service delivery. It is hoped that these efforts would motivate troops in the front line and those performing other duties.
It is a dream of every parent to see that your child achieves great heights in life.
The Chairman, Police Service Commission, Dr. Solomon Arase, says the Supreme Court judgments pronouncing the Police Service Commission as the agency statutorily mandated to recruit constables for the Nigeria Police Force has been laid to rest, has laid to rest a long-standing contentious issue. A statement by the Commission's spokesperson, Ikechukwu Ani, said the judgment cements the resolution of the issue in a win-win situation for the two institutions, which ordinarily cannot effectively function and deliver on their respective mandates without cooperating with each other. He noted that before the judgment, efforts were at an advanced stage towards the amicable resolution of the issue between the two critical institutions, as it was highly embarrassing to government and indeed other stakeholders for the agencies which...
All right, we thank you for staying with us on Good Morning Nigeria today. Now let's talk business. Experts advocate simpler laws for ease of doing business amid low agro-processing activities affecting the capacity of Nigeria's non-oil export. Now, Comfort Amodu has more on business news.
They have come up with incubation centers around the nation.
The federal government continues to develop policies and programs that are strategically geared towards boosting foreign direct investment and creating an enabling environment for ease of doing business in the country. While this has been impactful, some experts advocating enhanced standards in addition to easy and friendly laws by regulatory authorities to improve demand and export.
Give their own projection of their production line. This is what I want to do in future, and this is the volume I have. Give them those data. Then they will collaborate with you as manufacturers. Then, in the course of those production, if there is a change or upgrade in those equipments, they are involved, you are involved. So they will not allow it to fall.
Equally, the issue of agricultural incentives equally will be focused on. Government can do more in terms of provision of fertilizers, provision of equipment, tractors, subsidy. There is need for subsidy in the agricultural sector.
Meanwhile, Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Doris Anite, has pledged to exploit every potential in the business environment to reshape the investment in the country.
To ensure that, one, the image of the country out there is as investment friendly as the investments that we have here. Ensure that small businesses, micro businesses, medium enterprises grow. Even industries that are already existing profit better and even expand and grow better.
The minister said government will continue to roll out programs and policies to improve the business environment with priority attention to the manufacturing sector and MSMEs. With Business News, Comfort Amodu.
All right, thank you very much, Comfort, for the business news package on Good Morning Nigeria. Up next, a review of the papers we have this morning.
All right, and we have Chukwudi Okoli-Waja with us this morning. Yeah, for the analysis of what the papers are saying. Chukwudi, good morning and welcome.
How are you, Kieran? Good morning.
I'm good.
It's still very cold, but it's okay. Time of year. Good morning, Kingsley.
Good to see you.
Clean-shaven Kingsley. I envy you when you come in like this.
Well, thank you. You know, we all have individual identities.
Yes.
Some would like it with a 5 o'clock shadow, like your good self. And so that's fair enough. I mean, and Kieran also has his... but it's I don't want to say that, but it's some flimsy mustache that he retains.
Flimsy. You're not delivering a punch. Good morning, gentlemen.
Yes.
Well...
Well, Kieran, I think your front page is busier, but let me begin with the Leadership newspaper. Leadership newspaper, we'll just take some of the headlines there on the front page of the paper. Above the nameplate, we have this headline: Hannatu Musawa eligible for ministerial appointment. That's according to Senior Advocates of Nigeria. Details on page 7. Oil theft: Ribadu, Badaru, Batawale, Lopobri, Kiare, Storm, Niger Delta creeks. NAF airstrike hits illegal refining sites in rivers and militant camps in Cross River. Finally, Shaibu caves in, declares loyalty to Obaseki. Now, this is the lead story for the paper, a double-decker headline and a rider. Disaster looms in 13 states over release of Cameroon's Lagdo Dam. We have taken proactive steps to contain flood, that's according to NEMA. Elumelu urges further investment in Nigeria's power sector. TV masts and cell towers trading firms to charge VAT from September 1, that's according to the FRS. Stop congratulating me with billboards, Wike tells supporters. And then, very quickly, from the Nation newspaper as well, above the nameplate, CCB, that's Code of Conduct Bureau, begins verification of governors and ministers' claims. Agency to collaborate with CBN, NFIU, SEC, CAC on assets. Tax reforms aided 10.01 trillion naira revenue collection by FRS. Family hopeful on suspended EFCC boss Bawa's release. And then the issue about oil theft is still there. Nigeria loses $4 million daily to oil theft, says NSA. Siphoning point found in Abia. Minister Oke's pipeline protection firm Tantila's efforts. Tantita, that's government Tompolo's business outfit. NEMA alerts to flooding over Lagdo Dam opening in Cameroon. Tinubu, that's the kicker, servicing debt with 90% revenue unsustainable. And good pay for judges will lift judiciary, says President. Chamisa protests Mnangagwa's victory, that's the Zimbabwean election. Indian Prime Minister proposes G20 slot for AU. Stock market deals up by 22%. Why we destroyed vessel laden with stolen crude by Navy. That's on page 6. Kirian.
All right, we turn to Blueprint newspaper from top to bottom. Cartels, cabals working against success of power sector. That's according to Adelabu. It's on page 7. As serving core member, Minister, I broke no law. That's Hannatu talking there. It's on page 7. Tinubu at NBA confirmed. Tell me when I am wrong, I will change. It's on page 9. Now the lead story. Nigerian military leaders ruled out Bazoum's return to power. That's according to Abdul Salami. 3 writers to that. Says, we spent 3 hours discussing with leader of the junta. They insisted that if Nigeria fails to restore power, Bazoum won't have access to electricity. Tiani, once border reopened, asks ECOWAS to better people's lives. Get all that story on page 6. Below the photo story, Russia confirms death of Wagner chief Prigozhin. That's on page 5. Private sector driving economic growth. Elumelu is on page 5 as well. Prepare for flood. Water minister warns federal government, states and local governments in Nigeria. That story is on page 27 of the Blueprint newspaper. Nigeria losing 400,000 barrels of crude oil worth $4 million a day. That's according to the National Security Advisor, Ribadu. Federal government louds Tantita over pipelines protection. That's on page 6. Chukudi, what is it for you this morning?
If you don't give me that chewing gum, you're not going to chop for a house again.
Yes.
If Nigeria does not restore power to Niger, Bazoum will be left in darkness. So, that's kiddies talk. What's the meaning of that? Come on, let's go to more serious things. The president is saying that servicing debt with 90% revenue is path to destruction. I mean, he's just stating the obvious. you won't free up money for expenditures that matter, and growth is not ensured in that kind of atmosphere. He actually said, and I quote here, "Can we continue to service external debts with 90% of our revenue? It is a path to destruction. It is not sustainable, and that's fact of life. We must make the very difficult changes that are necessary for our country to get up from slumber and be respected among the great nations of the world." Fine, that is true. But if you go to the other side, this paper is also saying that households are groaning under inflation that has become hyper. It was clear, and Juma I sat with the other day, and I said, a bag of rice we would pay 40,000 for just 1.5 months ago is now 50,000. You can see the leap. It's almost quantum. Let's go to physics now. It's a very big leap. So some balance has to be sought. The president is telling us the truth. He walked into real issues, a quagmire, so to speak. But we are hoping that, given his track record over time, he would steer us, or they would. Let's stop personalizing this thing. It's not just the president. After all, the Senate is saying that solid minerals alone can give us up to $3-point-something billion, you know? So what are we doing? What are we enthroning to make sure that El Dorado is not so far from Nigerians who should not be by the river Niger and wash their hands with what? Spittle. Who was it? Chinua Achebe, or I can't remember which author now. So it is not good on the side of government, or the kind of decisions they need to make. It is not quite good for the citizenry. So some kind of, middle line, middle path has to be sought, because at the end of the day, it is for their old country to stand on its feet properly, and we all live a good life. Because if you ask me, Nigeria does not have a right to be in the shadow of poverty, not poverty itself, in the shadow of poverty for 1 minute. We plan our lives well. So it's something I'm really hoping that we can all get together and work out. At least everybody seems to agree that the removal of subsidy was quite good. I was reading a paper yesterday, said it benefited the rich, not the poor. I mean, when the subsidy was, and they're actually saying that how many liters now? Is it 50 million a day? That when this thing was removed, they found out that it might not actually be up to that anymore. So some people might have been cooking figures up, So it's a good thing we have taken that decision. But then we must make sure that life is not choked out of the ordinary citizen of Nigeria. Yeah, there's a warning about flood again. It's become a yearly ritual. I think...
before you get into the flooding, which is very important, it's useful that the president has recognized the hazard of excessive borrowing. And so part of the measures required would be to cap our penchant for borrowing. Why were we borrowing? Questions were being asked over the past years. So look, why are we getting into all this borrowing? How are you going to repay this? And it was always there in the public arena that we were spending so much on our debt servicing. It was climbing. The DMO, that's the Debt Management Office, was equally drawing attention to this. How will you repay this money? And people were asking questions. We didn't find the appropriate answers. Of course, now the president has, again, focused attention on the quantum of debt servicing. It is something that we have to deal with. I recall vividly in 1984, after the collapse of the Second Republic, the military administration at the time rolled out its budget. Onalak Basholaye was then Minister of Finance. The issue came up as to the ratio for debt servicing. I think it was about 35% or 40%. Everyone was alarmed. So, and you can see the difference between then and now, what the Second Republic was able to achieve, and then what we are struggling to achieve. You can't be any money that they're just using it to pay. Where did these monies go into? Yes, you can point to a few things here and there, but when are they going to repay themselves? We were told some of them were long-term concessionary loans, fine, but our appetite for borrowing has to be capped.
That's the point. Kingsley, sorry, my brother, just one sentence. Kingsley, when the DMO came in, just in the last days of the Buhari administration to slip in a warning that I felt it was criminal delay. That should have started a long time ago. They just came in so that nobody would say we didn't warn at all. 3 months of the year. I remember vividly. My brother, please go on.
Look, borrowing is not is not a sin, so to speak. You know, many countries borrow.
Nobody says no.
But let me just come.
Yeah.
You know, the idea. I'm just looking at it from the point of view of the necessity to borrow. There are no two ways about the necessity to borrow by any country. But where do you channel the money that you borrowed? That is the pertinent question here. Are you channeling the money to a productive entity, or are you using the borrowed money to service, perhaps to pay salaries, or I don't know, build roads that will not, the money will not be recovered in 10, 20 years. Now, the idea is that when you borrow and put the money in a productive entity, then we are talking. All the things you read out, from what the president said, they're all realistic things. But for you to address that, it doesn't have to be palliative arrangement. The palliative is just one of stuff, right? We have to be in depth in terms of manufacturing. That's what Brazil did over the years. Brazil entered into manufacturing. Remember when it was raining in the 80s, Brazil borrowed more than any other country in this world. But today, they are highly industrialized. They are churning out aeroplanes, vehicles, electronic gadgets of all sorts, all made in Brazil. So today, is Brazil still crying out? It's also one of the countries of the BRICS that have just been formed because they have the capacity, production capacity, manufacturing capacity.
When Brazil got into debt default in 1986, and creditors were all up in arms against Brazil, the then president of Brazil said, we are not going to pay back because we don't have the money to pay back right now. What we invested the money in has not started yielding income.
Exactly.
When it yields income, we will repay. We will repay you. So can you beat your chest like that now? No, can you? Are you with me, Chukudi? Can we beat our chest?
Some investments had happened, and they knew tomorrow would be better than today and yesterday.
Embraer jets that number of airlines are using around the world, including AirPeace in Nigeria, American Airlines, they produce in Brazil.
And forget the crash, the Prigozhin crash. Yes. That airline has reasonable safety record.
No question about that.
Yes.
It's improved.
What about Singapore? Yes. What about Singapore? You see, the thing is that it's the willpower, the political will to take decisions and ensure that they are implemented to the letter. That is just the issue that we have. When we say we are planless, it's not as if we don't have documentation that are planned or articulated documents that are planned, blueprint we call it. But then, how do you implement the blueprint that you have articulated? That has always been the issue, not in articulation of whatever ideas that we have. And when we say planlessness, it also means that, look, when you plan a project, halfway you stop the project. And then if somebody takes over, the reign of power in an establishment, he will stop all the works of his predecessor and start fresh ones that will not finish.
And Kylian, the one that gives me a lot of angst. They'd tell you it's because Nigeria was colonized, and India just put down the robot, I will call it that, the other day. Southernmost part of the moon.
It's not a robot. They went to the south pole of the moon. Russia tried it 2 months ago and failed. Yes. And India has succeeded.
And they're just looking to beat them by a few days.
Exactly. So it didn't work. So look at India doing that. And on that occasion, if you watch the live launch, or the simulation of the launch, you see the Indian president with the Indian flag showing supremacy.
So they didn't see colonization?
No. Where is going? That is their past tense, right? So that is what it takes to run a country.
Some years ago, on one of the international networks, I was watching it on television. India tried to launch a rocket, and the rocket failed. There are these sarcastic remarks you would hear. Yes. Oh, so they were mocking. They were mocking India. They were mocking India. It was years ago. I remember that. It was a news bulletin on one of the most popular international TV networks, mocking India. But now they are amongst those who are hailing India for landing on the south pole of the moon.
Every failure is a bundle of experience. So the mind that discerns
Yeah, Chukwudi, I know that you were going to talk about the flooding, the coming flood. But very quickly, let me just throw this in, because it relates to a matter we had discussed on Good Morning Nigeria, and it has to do with what is broadly referred to as security accountability. So the NSA is saying Nigeria loses $4 million daily to oil theft. That is what you have discovered now, that we are losing $4 million daily to oil theft. In 6 months' time, how much will we not be losing to oil theft? If we are losing more than $4 million, it means that something is wrong. If we are losing less than $4 million, it means that something has worked. What is it that has worked? In other words, it is one thing to disclose that we are losing so much, another thing to place measures to reduce the quantum of oil theft from our system. Otherwise, you have headlines like this, people read them, and they forget. Maybe another 2 years, somebody comes back and says, oh, we're now losing $6 million of crude oil daily. If it is $4 million today, let's know 6 months' time, let's know 12 months' time, 18 months' time, are the numbers going down? And if they are going down, you know, that should be good news.
That's a great point. That's a great point. And you know, I didn't like it the last time. Is it Tantita? Bemudo's Tantita. The other time they were, you know, exchanging a few words with the Navy and all that. And people were... Oil theft cannot happen in an enclosure.
Precisely.
I mean, for crying out loud, it's not like Chukwudi taking a few groundnuts when you're not looking from the saucer. No, it demands space. It demands light sometimes if you are doing it in the dark. Let people investigate why that light is going on.
It requires infrastructure. It requires technique, knowledge of what to do. If you and I get to that place, what are you going to do? Where are you going to start? These are persons who are professionals in the business. There are no two ways about it. And if such a thing persists, then there are persons who are ordinarily or hitherto authorized to either man or regulate, do you understand, that are also involved in it. It's just part of what we have been seeing in the country in other aspects of our life, not just in oil theft. It's really a shame that we have not been able to deploy technology to monitor the oil pipeline. It's the possibility. It's not a rocket science.
Drones.
It's not a rocket science.
Drone technology.
They can be used.
Rockets in space that can map those locations.
You know, and transmit information to you real time.
Big time. Big time.
Yes.
Chukwudi, flooding, very quickly. We are out of time virtually. But flooding.
Yes. I said you get tired talking about a yearly ritual. And it's as if exactly what happened last year happens in the succeeding year. And you ask, this Cameroon dam opening, I don't want to hear that anymore. Let's engage preemptive measures to lessen the gravity of this. And it is the rural people that suffer it. At the end of the day, agriculture suffers. At the end of the day, people lose their homes.
There was a buffer for that stuff, but I'm not sure that dam is still functional. But I think currently this is a matter to be taken up all over again, because it's the heat of the rain. You know, as we know it, between now and September, we'll be
so-called jazz months.
Yes.
And also coincides with the flooding months. All right, Chukwudi, thanks a lot for being around. The issue of the ministerial appointment, that's Hannatu Musawa, is on the front page every time. We hope we'll have the opportunity of deep diving into that sometime. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We take a short break now. When we return, we'll be talking palliatives and how they are being distributed in the states. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, live from our headquarters studios here in the nation's capital of Abuja. Now, before we commence our conversation on the distribution of palliatives in the states, we take this background report put together by our correspondent, Ekene Undulwe.
Like the bitter pill which must be swallowed for a patient to get well, the removal of fuel subsidy by President Bola Tinubu was inevitable as Nigeria's economy continued to bleed. However, the impact of this policy has created a huge hole in the pockets of citizens, occasioned by increased cost of transportation, food items, and other essential services. This reality is not lost on the government. And to provide respite for vulnerable citizens, federal government at the recent National Economic Council meeting approved 5 billion naira for each state and the Federal Capital Territory for immediate response to the hardship faced by citizens. While 52% is for grants, 48% are loans to be repaid by the states in the future. From this fund, state governments are to procure 100,000 bags of rice, 40,000 bags of maize, and fertilizers to be distributed to the vulnerable in their states. In addition, the federal government is also releasing 5 trucks of rice to the 36 states for distribution to the vulnerable. Now, some states like Osun, Oyo, Zamfara, Borno, and Lagos have started distribution of these relief items. But the question that keeps resonating among observers is what criteria these states are using to distribute the materials. Are these items adequate to provide relief for the poor and vulnerable members of the states? Some other states have, however, not commenced distributions yet, and one also wonders what their constraints might be. On this episode of Good Morning Nigeria, our guests shall be looking at all the issues around distribution of palliatives to states.
Ndule, we appreciate that compilation. And now to discuss the topic, we have here in the studio the Deputy Governor of Bauchi State. All right, Honorable Muhammad Awal Jatau. I hope I got that correctly.
You are correct, my brother.
You're welcome. We're glad to have you here. Of course, as one of his first, man at the helm of affairs, in the state, being a good man in Nigeria since the current administration. All right, you're welcome. All right, we also have here a regular face, Professor Aziko Basi, Professor of Public Administration at the University of Abuja. Prof.
Thank you.
It's good to see you again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kingsley. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, that's a real pleasure. Yes. That since we last met. Okay, now we have 2 other guests who are with us via Zoom in different locations. From Osogbo, that's the capital of Osun State. Let's welcome the Honorable Commissioner for Information, Kolakbo Alimi. Kolakbo Alimi is, I'm going to presume right away, it's on the right side of the screen. You can see him there from Osogbo. That's the Osun State capital. And on the left side of the screen is from Abakaliki, that's the capital of Ebonyi State, the Honorable Commissioner for Information and State Orientation, Jude Chikadibia. Gentlemen, you are both welcome to this episode of Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning, sir.
Okay, so Jude, you are the gentleman in suit, and then Kolakbo is the gentleman in a Kai fila. That's the way it's described, much more accurately. So, but let's come to the studios here and commence the conversation with the Deputy Governor, His Excellency Jatau of Bauchi State. Palliatives are already being distributed in the states. How well is the distribution going, for instance, in your jurisdiction?
Yes, thank you very much, my dear brother. As you said, of course, the Palliatives Distribution Committee was formed on the 21st of August in my state by His Excellency, Distinguished Senator Bala Muhammad. With my humble self as the chairman, of the committee. This committee is a committee of 21 member committee, which cut across all the segment, all the strata of our society. We have the civil society organization in the committee. We have the representative of the traditional rulers. We also have the labor union representative. In that same committee, we have the student union organizations. We have the representative of religious organizations. Nigerian Jamaatul Nasara Islam is represented by the secretary, while the Christian Association of Nigeria is represented by the chairman. We also have the chairman State Pension Board, as well as the chairman Local Government Pension Board. In the committee, we have the chief of staff to the governor or government of Bauchi State. We also have commissioners of religious affairs, commissioner for women affairs.
So the committee at work now, what's happening?
Yeah, of course, the committee, after being set and briefed by His Excellency, we started deliberating precisely last week. And considering the sensitivity of the job that we are about to handle, we decided to break into subcommittees to look critically into the issue of the palliative issue, and how does the committee critically look into each crony of the society and come up with transparent, fair, as well as equitable method of reaching out these palliatives or these relief materials to our target population without really
having issues.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you have read out, individuals from all strata of society in Bauchi State that are participating, who are members of the distribution committee.
Yes.
Now, I have concern with the fact that oftentimes we don't get to reach the vulnerables, the real vulnerables, because we have also learned in the past that we've had this palliative issue where some stock were piled up in leaders' houses, and they are not distributed. We also know there are certain persons who will also do some shoddy deals, in distribution. So how have you figured out those vulnerables? Are there any kind of census, or if you like, data collection to be able to determine the individuals or families that are really hardly affected that you should reach out to? Has there been any kind of, plans for that, to locate the persons concerned?
Yes, thank you very much, my dear brother. If you look at the composition of the committee formed by His Excellency, I believe you will be able to say, yeah, this committee is formed really to be able to have this social register or whatever information you are looking for. And by the way, even before now, if you could remember, during the COVID-19, a similar committee was formed, which was able to come up with a rational social register with which it reach out or it delivers the COVID-19 palliatives. It was under the chairmanship of His Royal Highness, the Emir of Bauchi, and it was one of the successful committee that was able to deliver precisely to the target population.
Just before we bring in the other guests from the states and then come back to the studios, Your Excellency, tell us something. If your state has experience in distributing palliatives. Why does it appear that your new committee hasn't dusted up the pre-existing template and, as the saying goes, hit the ground running? It's a week now since you got the committee together under the directive of the executive governor of the state. So, if, as I said, if there is experience and therefore a pre-existing template, dust it up and start using it. I'm sure some persons will ask that question.
Yeah, thank you very much, my dear brother. We have that the templates, but as a committee, and if you could remember, the issue of COVID-19 is about how many years now? A few years back. And we need to critically look into that document and see if we could add, subtract, or, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
Yeah, okay. Thank you. We're going to pause it for now. Let's go to Ebonyi State, where we have Engineer Jude Chikadibia Oppo as Commissioner for Information. Yeah, Chrisley, you know, he's going to engineer information in Ebonyi State, and I like that, you know, so that you will also be part of what we're doing. So, Honorable Commissioner, tell us how you are handling this distribution of palliatives in Ebonyi State, for instance. I know Ebonyi is not a hungry state; it's a food production center, and now you are having palliatives coming from the federal government. Let us know the measures that the state has put in place to reach out to the vulnerable in Ebonyi State, the salt of the nation.
Kirian, thank you for those kind words. Yes, indeed, Ebonyi is not a state, a hungry state. Yes, back to the issue on focus. Less than a week ago, precisely on the 23rd of August, the Ebonyi State government constituted a palliative distribution committee headed by no less a person but the Excellency himself, Right Honorable Francis Obonyanwifuru, and with the Deputy Governor as the Vice Chairman and the Secretary to the State Government as the Secretary. The constitution of this committee underscores the importance the government of Ebonyi State attached to the distribution of these palliatives, because it is the intention of the government to make sure that the people these palliatives are meant for will actually get it. So the Ebonyi State government does not want stories. That is why the caliber of people that comes to this committee speaks volume of the importance attached to it. And as we speak, Kirian, Ebonyi State government has received, because of issues of logistics, the government has received 2 billion naira from the federal government, and other supplies are ongoing because of logistics. So I can assure you that the state government is doing everything humanly possible to come up with a framework that will ensure equitable and fair distribution of this palliative. And also want to use this opportunity to point out that before the arrival of this palliative, the state government already started, policies to cushion the effect of this subsidy removal. It is public knowledge that Ebonyi State government is the first state in the country that announced an additional increment of 10,000 naira across all sectors for civil servants in the state, both at the state, local government, and level. And not done with that, the governor who understands the suffering of the masses, the people of Ebonyi State, by the result of this subsidy removal. I've also ordered the purchase of 10 brand new luxury innocent vehicles that will be taking Ebonyi workers to and fro to the workplaces. And most importantly, the state government, because Ebonyi State has a civil service as one of its mainstay of the economy. And when the workers in the states are challenged financially, the economy is also challenged. Before the advent of this administration, the state-owned university, the workers have been owned for a couple of months because they had issues of funding. And because of the importance that attaches to human capital development, quickly increased the subvention to the university from 150 million to 200 million. And before then, the past administration made a promise of 200 million to help the university to meet up with the financial needs, but it was not able to be released. So in all, the state government have released the sum of 700 million to Ebonyi State University to make sure that they are able to meet up, pay the salaries of the workers to stimulate economic activities in the state. Now, the state government also approved the recruitment of 1,454 young Ebonians so that the level of unemployment in the state will be released, will be increased, will be reduced. And there are a lot of other issues, other human capital development interventions that the state government, that the governor of Ebonyi State have also undertaken to make sure that the suffering of the masses in Ebonyi State is reduced. And finally, in our last Executive Council meeting, the government of Ebonyi State, headed by His Excellency Right Honorable Festus Ogbonnewufu, approved the release of 4.3 billion naira to take care of gratuities that have been owed Ebonyi workers, retired Ebonyi workers, for the past 25 years. Somebody can say 25 years. These are senior citizens has been waiting for them to receive their gratuities. But the state government, in this period, approved the release of the sum of 4.3 billion naira. And again, people used to say that young Ebonians are roaming the streets of the country, doing hawking. That is an issue that attracted the attention of the governor. And in our last Executive Council meeting, these are palliative, decisions that are also part of palliative to cushion the economic effects in the suffering of the people of Ebonyi State. The governor approved through the Executive Council the release of 3 billion naira. And this 3 billion naira is meant to be given to young Ebonians that are roaming the streets in the country, that have been brought back home as we speak, so that they will be passed through the level of training, skill acquisition, business trainings, and at the end of their graduation, each of them will be given the sum of 2 million naira. And it is going to be implemented in 3 phases. So these and many more are all the interventions of the state government to cushion the effect of the suffering of the removal of first subsidy, to also, augment what we are receiving from the federal government.
Thank you very much, Honorable Commissioner for Information at Ebonyi State, because you've, in addition to answering the question with respect to the immediate palliatives, you've also talked about what your state government is doing broadly to various subsectors of the state economy. But I want to draw your attention back again to the specific subject matter for our consideration this morning, which is on the distribution of palliatives to states, because there have been reports of specific items being distributed. They're talking about grains. What kind of items are being distributed or planned for distribution in Ebonyi? I should be upfront with this. We have heard about bags of rice being distributed, and I'm sure that some commentators will be horrified to hear, for instance, that bags of rice are also being distributed in Ebonyi, which is a leading rice producer in Nigeria. It's like taking coal to Enugu.
Yes, Kiri, and like I said earlier, Ebonyi is one of the biggest rice producers in the country. But that is not going to make us not to receive palliatives, rice inclusives that is coming from the federal government. Like I said here, as at Wednesday, 23rd of August 2023, Ebonyi State government have already received 3,000 bags of rice from the federal government. And that I will also attribute to the issue of logistics. We know more supplies are coming. And before the committee that is headed by His Excellency, the Governor of Ebonyi State, Right Honorable Festus Ogbonnewufu, concludes its meeting to come up with a template for distribution, I'm sure the quantity that is meant for Ebonyi State and there are other accompanying grains will arrive the state. But right now, we will only receive 3,000 bags of 3,000 bags of rice. And like I said earlier, the committee is working as we speak to make sure that all the strata of the society that meets these palliatives are captured. So that as soon as this committee concludes its assignment, then the distribution is going to commence in earnest.
Thank you so much, Commissioner for Information and State Orientation, Ebonyi State Engineer Jude Chikadibia. We appreciate your submission this morning and making reference once more to the hawkers that we talked about, most of whom are from your state. There's some of them are my friends, especially when I get to Enugu at mechanic workshops. They sell car air fresheners. I discuss with them a lot. Most of them are in schools. They're in schools, and they say, look, this is a part-time that they are doing to support themselves in school, and I appreciate that because I also hawked, during my own time. I had reasons to do that. So we appreciate you once more. All right, now let's go also to Honorable Commissioner for Information, Mr. Kolapo Alemi. He joins us via Zoom from Oshobo in Osun State. Honorable Commissioner, can we have a feel of what is being done in your state to ensure equitable distribution of the palliatives to the needy, and not just to everyone, because there are hints that in some states political consideration is prioritized, and if you didn't vote for a certain person or persons, you might likely not get something. I don't know what's happening in your state. Let us know.
Well, thank you very much, the presenters. Thank you, and I appreciate the co-contestants and co-debaters. On this issue of palliatives in Osun State, so far we have received a total 3,000. The number of bags of rice that we have received, 50 kg bags of rice, 3,000 bags of rice so far. But we have equally received information that very soon, Osun State will still be given about 14,050 kg bags of rice. We are still expecting that one, and about 3,200 metric ton of maize. However, immediately we have been receiving the 50 kg rice. We have the governor, His Excellency Senator Ademola Jackson Nuruddin Adeleke, directed that we should set up a committee which should devoid of any political coloration whatsoever. And the committee was set up, and it was now inaugurated last Tuesday by His Excellency the Deputy Governor of Osun State, Prince Kola Adewusi. The committee comprised of the state CAN chairman, the chairman of Osun State Muslim community, the representative of the labor union, and the people with special needs, the Yalojas, and so on and so forth. So when the committee sat, and then the permanent secretary of Ministry of Special Duty is in the committee to represent the government. So we told the committee what the federal government has sent to us, and that they should go ahead to set the templates, how the material will be distributed. Immediately the committee met. However, in the wisdom of the committee decided that it would be unwise for the state now to distribute about 3,000 bags of rice, because we are still awaiting about 14,000 plus. Taking into consideration the number of local government wards in Osun State, in Osun, we have about 30 local governments today, and we have 332 wards. If we just divide on local government basis, let's divide 3,000 by 30, you have 100 bags of rice per local government. Let us now take a local government with about 10 wards. That means you have about 10 bags of rice to a ward. A ward in Osun State at times might comprise about 5-6 towns and very, very large communities, various communities. So that means a community or a town will be getting like a half bags of rice. If we now consider a local government with about 15 wards, it will be worse. And so the committee decided that it would be wise for the states to await the arrival of about 14,000 plus, so as to distribute it and make it meaningful. The template for it to be used is being worked out by the committee because we don't want politicians to hijack the programs. We believe in the capacity of the people put in that committee. I told you about the camp president of the state Muslim community chairman, people with special needs, the labor union, and all these people. They promise us that they will replicate the committee at the local government level, and that they will put in that committee at the local government level those people who will be able to identify the poorest of the poorest and the most vulnerable of the society. And so far, we have received 3,000 bags of rice. We have not received any maize, but we are expecting 14,000 plus 50 kg bags of rice, and we are still expecting about 3,000 metric tons. And we have received in our accounts about 2 billion naira. The state is equally working. We have another committee of the state that is working on the template for Osun State. The one the state will do on our own. We are working on that one. And immediately the template is ready, and whatever the state wants to do, we'll roll it out for the whole world to know. But as per the one sent by the federal government, we have set up a committee, and the only government representative in that committee to monitor the activities happened to be a permanent secretary of the Ministry of Special Duty. We put those people who we believe happen to be stakeholders of the state, those that the people in the state have believed in, to make sure they distribute and ensure that the palliative gets to the poorest of the poorest, the most vulnerable of the state, so that the people will not hijack it. That is so far so good in Osun State.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kolapo Alimi, for the explanation you have provided. Back to the studios, Professor Isaac Obasi of Public Administration at the University of Abuja. Let's have your first intervention with respect to the ongoing distribution of palliatives. But just be guided. It appears that it's, at least in the first instance, it's almost one size fits all. We got 3,000 bags of rice, and it's curious that a state like Ebonyi, which is a rice-producing state, is also getting 3,000 bags of rice. They have a number of rice mills there. I mean, I think Ebonyi rice used to come out of Ebonyi. Why wouldn't a state say, no, this isn't what we require, or you get the 3,000 bags of rice and exchange it for other grains like beans and so on and so forth? It's like you sending 3,000 tubers of yam to Benue.
Okay, my first reaction is to make reference to your second question in the background report. That was how adequate are those things that are distributed. I think that's where I'll start from. I don't want to bother myself about what the state is distributing, whether they're getting this, but it's an important point you've made, that of course there should have been a kind of choice from the center that the thing is distributed. They should have looked at areas people need what they eat and what is supposed to be given anyway. But that be it. Let me refer to the joke His Excellency Muhammad Jatu cracked with me while we were sitting down waiting to come in. I gave them my bag to keep. He said, I hope there's palliative there. I said, palliative there is not enough. He said that the palliative is not supposed to be enough. I replied, I said, palliative you will get, but let it get first and let it not be enough. Okay. The problem we have presently all over the country is not enough. It's not enough. And so, and listening to them that they are waiting for, they brought in 3,000 bags of rice and they're waiting for additional. I don't want to hear that. What is the state level doing itself? The state is supposed to have by now, as the federal government was planning to do their own, they should be planning to do their own and merge and do it. That's how the conditional grant scheme worked. You match things, and if the federal government puts something, states puts, it becomes something good enough to distribute. We shouldn't be hearing it's not enough, it's not enough. You've gotten something from the federal government. Add your own. If you add your own, that will enable the palliative to be enough. I'm one of those who believe that palliative is not the answer. But let's agree that, yes, they have to be shared. People are hungry, and they want to see food to eat. And you are saying you are going to store the thing until additional 14 trucks. Who is monitoring when the trucks will come? So I don't believe that is enough. State must show their own responsibility in complementing federal actions. That is very important, and that's the way it will work. If you don't do that, this scarcity of palliatives, what we have seen so far is chaos, confusion, disappointments. That's what you see papers report. That all over the country, this is what is going on. People are not getting, some are hungry. Some have even gone to break the warehouses and steal what they want to take. So the best we can do is to start distributing. Let federal government put money and get additional to supplement. Even in the Ebonyi State government, the point you raise is very important. Ebonyi State government should, for instance, add beans to add nutrition to the what do you call it, the yes, the rice. I'm calling it what you call it now, the normal way in the food, in the nutrition science. That's carbohydrate. You add something to it. So you shouldn't be waiting that you get only 3,000. You're waiting for more. The state must put, this is a federation. So let's say the federal government did not give anything. Would the state just fold their hands? No. Listening to Ebonyi State, you see that the issue raised by withdrawal of fuel subsidy requires a multidimensional intervention attack. That is obvious. So we appreciate all the things they are doing. We want all the states, including the federal government, to take that multidimensional approach. There's no way palliative can do anything. At the time the fuel subsidy was removed, I wrote that palliatives will not go anywhere beyond palliatives. You can't do anything with palliatives in trying to address fuel subsidy removal. Even at that particular time, if you raise the civil servant salary by 2 times, it will keep you where you were. Remember, it was what was the increase was getting to 3 times in terms of what you now have to spend. But even if you increase the salary 2 times, it will not meet up with what the economy requires. So you'll be still where you are, solving problems. So, and government, as we know, haven't seen any government that multiplied salary here 2 times over the years. So you see that there's a problem towing that approach as a way to solve fuel subsidy. We want refineries to work.
Okay. Prof, you have reached a topic for another day, and we're going to address that as soon as possible. There are points here raised. Commissioner Kolapo talked about ensuring that the distribution process is devoid of political coloration, because that is what we will likely get in some states, because politics, they say, is local, and palliative sharing is also local, and we hope they're not going to clash. Your Excellency, that's something that came up from the Commissioner for Information, Ebonyi State. Multi-dimensional approach to the palliative. See, you mentioned something that really touched me, because my father of the blessed memory did not get his pension before he died, and he said that pensions were owed for 25 years before the assumption of office of the current administration in Ebonyi State. That is, for me, a quantum leap. To clear that debt, even to those who have died, is something worth doing. He said salaries owed to some institutions in Ebonyi State, salaries owed for so many months or years, have been paid by the government. It's a way of addressing palliative. Very intelligent approach. And he said again, providing innocent buses for workers, because Ebonyi State is, primarily government civil servants, and so for me, it's a comprehensive approach. Now, are you going to borrow a leaf from this, if you're not already doing that, to ensure that Bauchi, of course, I know is 2 times Ebonyi in terms of population? Are you going to add? And I also know that federal government gave states 5 billion naira. Are you going to inject that 5 billion naira to add to what is coming? That's not enough.
Well, thank you very much, my dear brother. When you talk about Bauchi and Ebonyi in terms of population, and I believe you know that we have a population of about 10 million in Bauchi State.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes, of course, all these things you have said, we are already, my governor is already proactive. When the issue of palliatives, or when the issue of fuel subsidy removal came up, and my governor then was in Abuja. Immediately he rushed back to Bauchi. He bought a lunch buses for intra-city transportation in a very, very subsidized rates. About 30 buses were launched even before the issue of the federal government coming in to support the palliatives. Much earlier than that, if you are following the events in Bauchi State, during the first term of His Excellency, the Governor of Bauchi State, there was no government in Nigeria that was able to reach out to the people in their respective places of residence with what do you call it? With supports and empowerment. People were empowered, each and every local government, with items for more than 100 million naira each. So what you are saying here is in Bauchi, we already considered the issue of gratuity, which is always the problem of most of the state governments, including the federal government in Nigeria. Considering their problem and susceptibility in the society, about 800 million is earmarked for both the states and local government retirees, which is just about to be extended to them. So you can see that we are already prepared for that. And in addition to that, in addition to the grain or grains that Bauchi State bought for over 3 billion, we bought rice for 2 billion naira, targeting about 150,000 vulnerable people, considering or critically looking into their challenges, either in terms of age, health challenges, and their social status in the society. We also put in about 1 billion naira to buy maize. And that one too, we are targeting about 5,200 people across the society to benefit, so as to alleviate the suffering these people have been meted with as a result of fuel subsidy removal. More so, we as a committee look critically into the situation and say, okay, let's see the workers. Transport leave grant has not been paid for 12 years in Bauchi. We decided to say, let's pay off for 2023, so as to provide liquidity as well as immediate relief to the workers of Bauchi State. So if you see the leave grant, the issue of the retirees, you can see that Bauchi State is already ahead of, yes, whatever state you are referring to in terms of that.
Okay, Your Excellency, thank you very much for your explanation. Let me just throw this in. It's not a question. I know that if it was going to be a question, I would direct it to Professor Obasi to respond to. I think that it's probably time for us to begin to feel some sense of embarrassment all over, private and public sector, to beat our chest to say that payment of salaries and other entitlements such as pensions and gratuities are an accomplishment. These are entitlements. It's entitlement. It's a breach of contract for a worker to work and you don't pay the worker at the end of a period that he is supposed to be paid. It just relates to poor financial management, that you have those kinds of examples. If this were an economy where you paid your mortgage, how would the mortgagor respond? 1 month you say you have not paid your mortgage, 2 months, you'll be on the street. You will lose your mortgage. And in societies that are violent, you will see people waving pistols at those who haven't paid them. So why would it be? I had experience in government in the past where they were bringing items to say what government has achieved payment of backlogs. I said, no, I won't say this. It's not an accomplishment to say that you have kept your bargain in the contract of employment.
Exactly. Yes.
Let me also say that when I talk about poor financial management, look, in the years past, up to the 70s, when you worked and nobody prepared. Level 4 then was 100 naira. After pay of 1 naira 50 kobo, it came to 98 naira 50 kobo. At the end of the month, you got your salary. Yes. I mean, some of us have worked in the private sector for decades, and nobody owed you your pay for 1 month. So when are we going to overcome this? You know, we leave people in a state of penury, we make them vulnerable, we make them needy, and then we now strive to palliate.
Okay. Yes, you are right there.
I think I would like.
You want to? Okay.
It is really unfortunate when you read the issue of salaries and whatever as part of palliatives. But you and I are residents of Nigeria. We are Nigerians and we live here. And I believe you knew that there are states in Nigeria, as I'm talking to you right now, have not paid salaries of their workers for 6, 7, and 8 months. Not talk of the even gratuity. Some are even owing a pension. In Bauchi, we do not have that. We have been paying minimum wage as at when due. We have been paying salaries as at when due, as well as pension to all the Bauchi state workers. So it's not like I'm saying that it is something outcut or something special when we made mention of gratuity. When you have a backlog of gratuity for over 12 or 18 years, not to be attended to, and with the minimal resources we have, if you are following the trend of Bauchi, you see that almost in every 3 months, a governor puts aside certain amount of money to be able to defray this huge amount of gratuity ought to arrears.
Okay, so yes, we agree with you. As a matter of fact, Kingsley made a very good point to say, look, it's entitlement. Yes. That's what it is. But again, Kingsley, it becomes an achievement for a government that just came in and saw 25 years backlog and clears it. So the next thing is that he will tell you, okay, I've been able to do this because my predecessor couldn't do that.
So the question is, why was it not done?
Exactly.
And then so that we move away from it.
Exactly.
Precisely.
Exactly. So we are going back. You are going back to Honorable Commissioner for Information, Ebonyi State. You have listened to the points raised by other guests, this morning with respect to Ebonyi getting rice when Ebonyi is the how do I put it? Is the nucleus?
Put it this way, I was used to doing social studies. It's a coal is to Enugu as rice is to Ebonyi.
So why are you now?
True or false?
Yes. Why are you now receiving rice from federal government? I know that in the past administration in Ebonyi State, no market in Ebonyi sells foreign rice. I'm sure, I hope that has been sustained. But in the event of getting foreign rice in this palliative thing, what is going to happen? Are you also trying to use part of the 5 billion naira given to you by the federal government, or rather 2 that you have received already, to buy other things like maize, like beans or something, to add the protein to the carbohydrates, according to Professor Obasi, that is being distributed currently in Ebonyi State?
Yes, Kirian. First of all, for the records, I said the state government released over 4.3 billion for the payment of backlog of gratuities. Gratuities, not a pension. Pension payment is ongoing, as we speak. The only thing the state government did was to direct the people in charge of the payment to make sure that issues surrounding the small fraction that are yet to receive theirs is addressed without further delay. Now, back to the question you asked. Yes, a committee has been set up, headed by no less a person. I am very certain that that committee is going to undertake need assessment of the people of Ebonyi State. And if necessary, other, forms of palliative, like you mentioned, grains, to add some protein, will also be procured. Yes, Ebony.
All right. Thank you very much, Engineer Jude, for the points that you have clarified. But again, this is not to split hairs. Look, let's be realistic. Salary, pension, salary, gratuity, and pension, they are all entitlements. If you haven't worked, you won't be getting your gratuity. If you haven't worked and then joined the pension system, you won't be getting your pension. The point is, look, if you are entitled to all of this, get it when it is due. I mean, this is what happens in advanced countries, and people are able to plan their lives and say, this is what I will do after retirement, not turning around and be sleeping on mats by the roadside, as used to happen years ago here in the Federal Capital Territory as well as elsewhere. Let's return to Kolapo Alimi with us via Zoom from Osogbo, the Osun State capital. Kolapo, there's an issue that I would like you to clarify. When the National Economic Council met on this subject matter, one of the news items that emerged from that meeting was to dispute the integrity of the social register. And they said, no, they were going to set up a committee to have their own new register and so on and so forth. But incidentally, on Good Morning Nigeria, we had a conversation. And I remember if you and I were on set, Dr. Umar Bindri, who worked on the social investment program in the Humanitarian Affairs Ministry, did come to say, look, those registers were generated bottom up, right from the state level, and that states were contributory to it. So we haven't heard much again about the initial dispute over the integrity of the register. How is your state seeking to compile the names of persons who will qualify for these palliatives when you do get the quantum that you consider reasonable to begin to distribute?
Thank you very much. Before I answer your question, let me state that I did not mention the welfare program of the state because we don't count that one as part of palliatives, because those things have been honed in these states. Our governor, Senator Ademola Adeleke, made the issue of salary arrears, and he has been paying it. Bonds have been used to the contributory pensioners. Gratuity have been paid. These are regulars. And apart from that one, for the pensioners, thousands of them has been registered on health insurance scheme so as to help them in terms of health. And generally, if you monitor the development in the state, our governor has organized regularly on quarterly basis now operations for the most vulnerable of the states, whereby about 2,000 is projected per federal constituency, making 18,000 from the 9 federal constituencies to be operated quarterly. All those things are going on. Ordinarily, we won't count that one as a part of palliative because it has been a program of the state that has been honed. Now, coming back to your program, to your question, as per the issue of a register, we told you that we set up a committee. The committee deliberated on the issue of register. However, in their own wisdom, they discovered that register is, apart from the fact that most of those data are not reliable, they have decided that they will not be relying on any register. I told you that in that committee, we only have the permanent secretary of a special Ministry of Special Duty there. The major stakeholders of the state are the one in that committee. We have the chairman of Muslim communities. They have the numbers and the list of all the RATBs, all the small mosques across the state. They have the numbers of the imams. They said they are going to constitute another committee at the local government that will consist of these imams. We have the CAN president there, the state CAN chairman there, and they know that the churches, they know the vulnerables, the poorest of the poorest in the churches. Then we have the labor leaders there. And so from this one, we believe these people will be able to generate or give us the templates that will be acceptable, rather than just rely on a certain data that it will take us time to verify, and then people will just hear that rice has been distributed, they will not see it. But if certain bags of rice is given to a particular mosque in a particular mosque, we know who have collected, who have collected. And in fact, the member of that committee at the state, they disqualify themselves. They told everybody that they want those palliatives to get to the poorest of the poorest, and that majority of the people in that committee, even those that will be set up at the local government level, will not be among the beneficiaries. And so most of these data that we talk about, at times, apart from the fact that they need to be updated or reviewed, at times, some of them might have political colorations. That's why we put in that committee, we have representatives of these people with special needs. Even among the special needs, not all of them will be qualified to collect, because some of them are civil servants, some have one work or the other that he or she is doing. So they know among themselves who and who to be given these things. And because this thing is so small, even when we had for 3,000 plus, 14,000 plus, it will give us 17,000 plus. And in also, we don't believe in that this kind of a palliative. When you are talking of palliative, you are talking of you want to give a cup of rice to somebody, and you call that one palliative. How long will it take him to finish that rice? So that's why we have committee of this government that is working on the palliative of the state. The one that we have set up a committee on is on the federal government palliative, so that people will know that the foodstuffs and other items brought to the state by the federal government, they are judiciously distributed. But as per that of the state, you will soon see our own programs. It is going to be beyond the issue of sending rice and so on and so forth. When the fuel pump is increased, and you see the hardship, and you're not talking about 2 or 3 cups of rice, what is the meaning of that one? And also, it's a very, very big state. I told you we have 30 local governments, and we have 332 wards. So even if we want to distribute millions of rice here, it will only last for weeks, and it will finish. And we are expecting the other batch, the 14,000. So that is what we are doing so far.
Right there. You are indeed correct. I'm happy that you put it just the way it is, that the palliative may not necessarily go a long way, but they say half loaf is better than none. That's what we're doing at the moment. And gentlemen, there is an onerous task of distributing this palliative to the vulnerables. You can see the complexities in terms of name compilation, register that doesn't have integrity, that was applied last time, and now you are doing a fresh one. It's really an onerous task. Before we go on break, really, we have to go on break, but let's bring in Professor Obasu once more. There's one aspect of this conversation you raised, sir, that is very pertinent, to say, look, that this ought not to have been the best idea of what to do. Just give us an idea of what you thought could have been a better option than what we're seeing today. Very briefly.
Sorry, let me be historical. The problem we've been suffering with what has created the problem we're having now dates back to late 80s when SAP came in. So we started having foreign exchange fluctuation. You know, everybody became an expert in knowing the value of the naira to the dollar. Okay, so this problem has been on up to now. How many years? And people who have been wishing to rule Nigeria did not know that fuel, importation of fuel in this country is one of the major problems that are triggering other problems. And so if you want to attack it, you must have a good, deep thinking, have a plan that can address it. From all you have had now, we are responding to emergency. That only shows you that there is institutionalization of plans or ways of trying to address the issue. In this studio here, and I'm sure you were here, Kirian, Mr. Wise were here. The early time we made argument about the registrar that was existing for CCT, conditional cash transfer. When government said they want to take that aspect of the thing from OSAP SDG, but OSAP SDG replaced OSAP MDG. So we said here, I opposed it. They moved to the office of the vice president. Politics came in more. From there, from experience over the years, they moved it out completely from the office of the vice president. So as you move it and get more political coloration, we lost value in terms of what we are going to achieve. What am I saying in the first? Is that as the government was coming in 2015, they told us that they're not going to use existing register because it had integrity. The same word they use there. Professor Soludo used this to say, oh, the existing register under the last regime lacked integrity. This is the argument they made in 2015 when the APC government came in. They are not going to use the registrar used for distributing CCT, which worked in Brazil. It was generated professionally here. They put it aside, generated their own. According to Mrs. Uwe, the very humble and unassuming woman who handled the street investment program before leaving, the World Bank helped them to generate the registrar. And like Kingsley mentioned correctly, the person who was handling it, being there, told you what they did. Why is that registrar not working? Why is it that whenever problem comes, we take an ad hoc approach to it? You are now going back and say you have member of CAN, you have member of Islamic group, you have member of this group. It will not solve the problem. The problem is gigantic. The state is large. That if you give it to Labour knows their members who are poor. I mean, I can't understand.
Yes.
We are not institutionalizing things. We are not. We borrow social investment issues from the US. And we said here like many years ago that you have many programs, up to 13, that are handling different facets of this issue that are raised. And they try to make sure they have register for each one, and they clean it. So if they are telling us they are cleaning it, we will agree. There's local government, there's state government, there's federal. And it seems as if we talk at the federal level and the other side is empty, vacuous. So that top-down that was generated, why is it not working? Why wouldn't we go back to the level, that level, and ask what has changed and clean it up? And begin to use things to begin to, for instance, this thing they have already, they can instrumental start distributing. The areas distribute. They know that they have bread is better than none. They wait for the other 14 trusts or more to come. They face others. Why keeping all, locking them up, and waiting for when? There's no easy way to distribute this.
Okay. Professor Isaac Obasi, thank you very much for the historical recall. Kirian, while Professor Obasi was speaking, I just remembered something. Very quickly, because we're going on a short break now. Crude oil did not become king until after the Arab-Israeli war in 1973. Years before then, Colonel Samuel Osagbovo Gbemudia, military governor of the then Midwestern state, had buses plying Benin City and some other locations in the state. So today we buy 10 buses and then, we are singing Hosanna, 10 buses. These were buses, I've said it here on Good Morning Nigeria, the ticketing system was the same ticketing system you will find in London. Yeah. And we were using coins, to ride on those buses. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We'll take a short break now. You're welcome back at still Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. I want to bring in again His Excellency, the Deputy Governor of Bauchi State. Your Excellency, some concerns have been raised because Nigerians witnessed what happened about 3 years ago with the COVID palliatives, when angry youth during the NSAS protest stormed into some warehouses, and of course they started helping themselves because they felt that those palliatives at the time should have reached them. Are we likely to avoid that ugly incident? And if so, how do we move away from it? Because the anger that boiled over at that time was unimaginable.
Well, thank you very much, my dear brother. It is unfortunate that incident happened, but I don't see any reason. I don't just see any rational reason why commodities made for palliatives could be hoarded for a very long time. Palliatives are said to be an intervention that you give to people in order to alleviate the suffering they are subjected to as a result of a particular situation, though it is not a permanent solution. But so, since it is an emergency situation, I don't see a reason why you should have something as a palliatives and go and keep it for months in a store. It is very unfortunate. That had not happened in Bauchi. We were very fortunate. Whatever comes, whatever we mobilize, we give it straight to the people. As I am talking to you, we have earmarked over 300 million or 325 million to give to the most vulnerable group. The aged, as I earlier said, the civil servant that their take-home pay cannot even take them home. So, and as well as the widow, the orphans, and all these students and these classes of people that are at the disadvantaged situation. So we are targeting about 5,000 of these people to be able to reach out with these 10,000 of palliatives. As well, we look critically into our health sector. It is unfortunate that we renovated most of our primary and secondary health institutions, but yet the issue of manpower is always a persistent and consistent problem, not only in Bauchi, but even in the federal service. So we decided to earmark sum of about 70 million naira to health care volunteer workers on monthly basis, so that these people will be able to provide support to people, to patients and the patient relatives in our hospitals, both in primary, secondary, and tertiary institutions. So we are approaching holistically with a number of supports so as to bring in liquidity and to provide us the palliatives this thing, a temporary relief, while still working on issues, on programs that will be able to bring a permanent solution, a permanent cure caused by this situation.
Okay, all right. And, well, we have time today. You know, we're just privileged to have you today, Deputy Governor of Bauchi State. But I think you'll be coming more often so that we can be discussing issues concerning Bauchi State. We'll talk about agriculture when next you come around, or something else you are doing. We want to talk about manufacturing, developing the production sector of Bauchi State, which is, of course, what should be more permanent than palliatives. Thank you indeed. As we're rounding off this edition of the program, let me quickly return to Engineer Jude Chikadibia, Information Commissioner, Ebonyi State. I don't know. What are the assurances that when the distribution of palliatives in Ebonyi kicks off, that the vulnerables will be reached, meticulously so? And I know Ebonyi and, of course, the terrain in the place. And now that you are in the saddle, newly inaugurated, are you also assuring Nigerians of peace in Ebonyi State? Because we usually have some communal clashes here and there, you know, in that state. Just in 30 seconds, let's hear from you as we round off today's package.
I've lost
Hello?
I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
But, okay, but can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? I think we have actually lost his audio line, and that will be it. Now, okay, to Mr. Kolapo Alimi, give us assurance that Oshu people who are vulnerable are going to be reached as much as you can. You have already told us all the complexities and difficulties occasioned by non-authentic register to work on the palliative distribution. So what are the assurances, very briefly?
Well, thank you very much. I just want to assure the Osun people and the Nigerians that our governor, Senator Ademola Jackson Nuruddin Adeleke, run a transparent government who will keep the people updated about the development, and from time to time, people will know that this thing will get to the most vulnerable of the society. Apart from that one, the palliative measure of the state will soon be rolled out, as I've told you. A committee is working on it, and immediately the template is ready and the program is ready, we'll let the whole world know. And you will see that Osun will always be among the first in Nigeria. Today, Osun is the safest. Most of the states in this country will be able to attest to the fact that our governor is doing a wonderful job. Most of the areas of salary, backlog of pension arrears, and so on and so forth, they have been cleared by the current administration, and that our governor is on track. Just be patient with us. In due course, the programs of the state and the templates will be made open to the entire state and the Nigerians.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kolapo Alimi, there for your response. Professor Isaac Obasi, I know we're pressed for time, so this is going to be pretty tight. It is one thing, many will argue, to distribute palliatives. It's another thing to actually assess the effectiveness or the impact of this. How do we keep an eye on monitoring and evaluation?
Well, the question I will ask back is there a monitoring and evaluation mechanism on ground to track this? I doubt. That's number one. But let me recall, I know you are a historical person in terms of ideas, Professor Wolfgang Stolper, who helped to develop our first development plan, 62-68. After the experience, he wrote Planning Without Fuss. You know about that. Yeah. Planning without fuss. Today, are we planning? We are planning and organizing without accurate facts, no statistics. We are not going to achieve more with all these things you have seen, distributing the palliatives without facts, without a good number of people you want to give it to. If we really want to make a difference and we think palliative matters, let government vote a lot of, state governments now, vote a lot of money, complement and share. Because they know all their political words. They know. And they know how they can reach those people. Even if they don't want to use the registrar, they see ad hocism that's going on. To address what is urgent, people are hungry. Let them go straight and do something that can assuage the anger of the people. I think that's what we can say. There's no impact. If you have eaten the cup of rice, it goes out and goes to the latrine. And that's simple and short. So no impact. Because it has not alleviated poverty. It has not lifted anybody to a higher level than where he was. So he's going to be the same way. So the multidimensional approach that's required should be carried out, and so that you can now get it kind of sustainable.
Especially, Your Excellency, very quickly, because there is the argument that states now and local governments will have more resources. Because states and local governments previously were contributors to the subsidy regime. What should citizens expect in terms of more ends of democracy?
Well, thank you very much, my dear brother. If you look at what we are doing in my state, what distinguished Senator Bala Mohammed Abdulkadir is doing with the minimum resources at hand for maximum benefit, the road we are building, the people we are empowering, and a lot more, the skills training. As I am talking to you, about 70 to 80 million naira is being earmarked out of these palliatives to train people in about 6 trades. So what I'm telling you is, so long as we have good flow of money, that is another advice I will give to the government, that they should, as a matter of urgency, work with the state government. They should also galvanize NEMA to be able to work concurrently, to cooperate with the state government on whatever they have to be able to deliver to the remotest part of our state.
Your Excellency, your time is not our friend at this point. We want to appreciate you very immensely, for sharing your time and your thoughts with us all the way from Bauchi. We expect to see you some other time on this platform, perhaps to talk about other issues. Thank you, Deputy Governor of Bauchi State, Right Honorable Muhammad Awal Jatau. Thank you once again. And we'd also like to extend this appreciation to Professor Isaac Obasi, Professor of Public Administration at the University of Abuja. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you very much.
Honorable Commissioner for Information, Mr. Kolapo Alimi, who joined us via Zoom. Honorable Commissioner, thank you for the work you're doing in Osun State. We appreciate you. And again, Commissioner for Information and State Orientation, Ebonyi State, Engineer Jude Chikadibia Obo. Engineer, we thank you for
being with us this morning on Good Morning Nigeria.
So that's it for us on the program for today. Join us again tomorrow, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Until then, look after yourselves. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
And I am Kirian Umayo. Do have a great day.